Hello and welcome back to another video of the Brainy Heart. Today we'll be talking about the three main components of blood. The three main components of blood are red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. There are a lot more, but these are the main ones. Let's get started by talking about the red blood cells. Red blood cells are also known as erythrocytes. Red blood cells are what I like to call the taxis. The reason why I call them taxis is because they carry oxygen inside them, and without these red blood cells, you would be dead. The red blood cells have a protein called hemoglobin. It might sound like a familiar name because you might have learned that hemoglobin makes your blood red, and that is true. Hemoglobin also contains the oxygen inside the red blood cell. And you might be thinking that blood has oxygen, but it actually doesn't. It's the red blood cells that have the oxygen inside the blood. Red blood cells are anucleated, which means that they have no nucleus. They're also biconcave, which means they're shaped more or less like a donut. Red blood cells make up 44% of your blood. Now, you might be wondering, what is the other 46%? Well, the 55% of the remaining 56% is plasma. Plasma is nothing but a clear liquid, and we'll talk more about plasma in the next video or future videos. And the remaining 1% are white blood cells and platelets, which we'll be talking about today. And the reason why I call the red blood cells the taxi drivers or the taxis is because they carry oxygen, and in this case, oxygen is the passenger. So yeah, there you go. That's one of the analogies that you can use to remember red blood cells. Now, let's move on to white blood cells. White blood cells are also known as leukocytes. The function of the white blood cells is to protect your blood. So I like to call them the police officers or the cops. They look for foreign material that could be dangerous, and they fight against them and mostly kill them unless it's something new and they don't have any experience with it. White blood cells have a nucleus. Also, there are different types of white blood cells, and they're specialized to fight different types of bacteria, viruses, fungi, etc. That was the white blood cells for you guys. Now, let's talk about the platelets. Platelets and white blood cells, like I said, make up only 1% of the blood, but they're still very important. Platelets come into action when you're injured. Imagine this. You're playing soccer with your friends, and God forbid, you fall down and you hit your leg on a sharp stone, and it pierces through your skin. It doesn't make that big of a tear, but it still causes the blood to bleed. Well, the platelets nearby come together and they send out spiny protrusions which help the platelets stick together. And when these platelets stick together, they block that hole, which is helping the blood to leak out or bleed. And that's why I like to call platelets the ambulance, because they come there so quickly and fix everything in like few minutes. And you can also call them the handyman which come and help repair your car as soon as possible when your car breaks down in a highway. Also, when you're bleeding, the blood near the area where you got injured turns into a gel-like substance. This is called coagulation. And if you think about it, when the blood becomes gel, it's harder for it to get out. So that's a pretty smart thing that your body does. We'll talk more about coagulation in the future videos where I'm going to be talking about thrombosis and everything about that. So stay tuned. Fun fact, platelets are the smallest blood cells. Platelets are also anucleate, which means they don't have a nucleus, just like the red blood cells. At rest, the platelets are in a disc shape, and when they're into action, they transform into different shapes. Those were the three main types of blood cells and components of blood. I hope the analogies helped you remember what they do. Also, if you're bored during quarantine and you'd like to see some movies, I'd recommend watching Osmosis Jones. It's a really good movie. I like it because it illustrates how your body works in a really fun way. Here's how it goes. There's a zookeeper that contracts this deadly virus, and it's up to the white blood cells to fight this virus and keep the man alive. The man thinks it's just a normal cold and takes in a cold pill, and this cold pill comes in like the superhero and joins forces with the white blood cells. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story just so that I don't spoil it for you, but it's a really, really good movie, and you should watch it if you're bored during quarantine. That was it for today's video. I'm always open to questions, comments, and suggestions. Also, check out my blog at brainyhearts.wordpress.com. This is the Brainy Heart signing off. I'll catch you later in the next video.